All right, guys, Justin James here. And as you guys know, for unfortunate circumstances, the fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis has been canceled for misfortunate events, I'll say. And there was a lot of speculation who Jake was going to fight next. The first guy that I heard of that I hated the idea was a rematch with Nate Diaz. As much of a fan I am of Nate Diaz, I really feel the fight would have went the same way. Jake Paul is getting better, guys. He's training for boxing. He's getting better. Nate Diaz, hasn't been in combat for a while. He'd just essentially be doing it for the paycheck. A lot of people saw it as moral victory when he guillotined Jake Paul in the first one. But through and through, Nate Diaz won this fight. And the matchup that's being proposed is a lot more exciting. And what a challenge for Jake Paul to take on. This fight is not finalized yet, but they are nearing agreement. And I'm talking about Anthony Joshua. Guys, when Jake Paul came onto the scene, I was not a fan. I thought he was picking on MMA fighters for notoriety and paychecks and, calling out all these guys. But as time has went on, I really feel that Jake Paul has and is doing everything right for his career, especially taking on somebody like Anthony Joshua. When you look at his resume, I mean, it's not overly impressive. He's beat a lot of senior citizens. He's beat a lot of MMA fighters. He beat a bare knuckle fighter, which aren't necessarily huge accomplishments. I think like Anderson Silva is an incredible boxer, but Jake was a lot bigger than him. And obviously he has youth on him. Anderson Silva hasn't been competing in years and, kind of was at the end of his career when he was in the UFC. He couldn't win any fights. Let's get into this. Let's get into Jake Paul. And we're looking at this right now. Jake Paul's record coming into this, and there's a huge experience difference. We have 12 wins, 7 by KO, and 1 loss when he fought a real boxer. He's ranked 76th in the world, 9th in the US, 13 bouts, 70 rounds, almost a 60% KO. Only been fighting professionally for five years, guys. That's not very much time. 6'1" with a 76-inch reach, cruiserweight division. Now looking at senior citizen, bare knuckle boxer. Don't know this guy. MMA fighter, real boxer, and he loses to a 1-star. Anderson Silva, a 1-star boxer, incredible MMA fighter. But, Jake had size on him and age. And you got Tyrone Woodley, wrestler. Woodley, wrestler. I don't want to take too much away from this because Tyrone was the UFC champion. He does have power in his hands. But I believe in this debut, like they had a no knockout policy. I might be wrong with that, but then he just brutally knocked out Tyrone the second time. Ben Askren, the furthest thing from a striker besides Nate Robinson, because he's a professional basketball player, and I don't even know who this guy is. So when we talk about Jake's resume, obviously this is not very impressive. And this will be, in my opinion, the first real fighter. I shouldn't say real fighter because I should say real boxer. Because MMA fighters to me are real fighters. Boxers are boxers. MMA is all the elements, all the weapons. When you have boxing, we can only use your hands. Now, going into his opposition, we're getting into Anthony Joshua, guys. And I'm really excited about this matchup. And I'm really happy for Jake Paul. I want to talk about the experience. Jake Paul coming in with 13 pro fights. Anthony Joshua has 32 pro fights. He's in the heavyweight division. 6'6". He's going to have 5 pounds. He's got almost 10-inch reach advantage on Jake Paul. 6-inch reach. I think he had 74, 76. A huge reach advantage. Guys, if you don't respect Jake Paul, if this fight goes through and Jake Paul actually goes through with this, a lot of people are saying that Jake Paul isn't going to show up. I disagree. I think this is a win-win for Jake Paul. Obviously, he's down an incredible amount in experience, but going on and facing a real boxer, even if he's in there to give a decision, I think it's a win for Jake Paul. Let's take a look at this resume. Daniel Dubois, he lost his last fight, but we're talking about a 5-star boxer over here. We have Francis Ngannou, my teammate, MMA champion. What he did to Francis, I've never seen anybody do to Francis. He toyed him. Got a 3-star here, with an incredible 26-1 record. Like, he's fighting 32-4. He's fighting guys with boxing experience. Look at this. Usyk 19-0, 18-0, like taking on 5-star. Just the resume difference in here and the experience difference is so vast. I mean, there's only one reason for Jake Paul to take this fight, And it's just so people stop talking shit. And I tell you what, I respect him for it. You know, Jake Paul for the last couple of years has been a big advocate for fighters' health insurance, better pay for MMA fighters. He's won at Dana White. You know, and I just think Anthony Joshua is, geez, he's the real deal. And Jake Paul's going to step up and win or lose. This is a win for him. So if he loses, he's only going to be 13-2. I'm sure he'll get a couple scrubs to beat up after a loss. But if he beats Anthony Joshua, he might be talking about a title shot coming up in boxing. Guys, hats off to Jake Paul. If this is real and it goes through, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua will be an incredible fight, and I will tune in to see this. Tell me what you think in the comments.